Hello and welcome to Who's the Bossk? It's a Star Wars podcast from laughingplace.com. My name is Mike Celestino. I am your host. I am the lead Southern California reporter and editorial director for Star Wars content at Laughing Place. This is episode number 216 of Who's the Bossk? And it's getting to be late January, so I thought it was about time, now that Star Wars Skeleton Crew has wrapped up, to do a preview of all the Star Wars content that we know of coming up in the calendar year of 2025. And for that presentation and discussion, I have invited back on the show for the first time in a while, actually, the co-founder of Laughing Place. The reason why I chose you, Doobie, mostly was because Rebecca did it last year, the 2024 the Star Wars preview in 2024. So I thought, why not bring in Doobie? We'll get his perspective. He's more of a casual Star Wars consumer, so I want to get his view on a lot of this stuff. Doobie Moseley, thank you for coming back on the show. How are you? What's been going on?
Thank you very much for having me. I am doing very well. Episode 216, that feels like a very monumental episode, so I'm honored to be here for that one. And I will warn everyone right now, Rebecca's Star Wars insight is about 112 times more than mine. So, but I'll do my best. Thanks for having me.
Well, I think, yeah, you are more of a casual Star Wars consumer, and you've been a fan of some of this stuff, but I think that perspective is important in the conversation around Star Wars, because while the hardcore fans know a lot and they consume it all, I think Disney is always, since Disney bought Lucasfilm over a decade ago, they've been trying to capture that. It's so important to capture the attention and the approval of the casual fan. So,
and they have gotten me with a lot of their stuff. So they certainly have.
Yeah, good. So we'll get into that in a bit, but let's talk about what's been going on at Laughing Place recently. Anything that you in particular have been up to or have enjoyed, or trips that you've gone on that you'd like to talk about real quick?
Oh man. Yeah, just another day at Laughing Place, as you know, being an insider, not a lot going on. No, it's been a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes that hopefully will make its debut in the world relatively quickly. But no, I haven't been on a trip since 2024 was fantastic. We went to Alani, we went to Disneyland Paris, we took a Disney cruise, several trips to Disney World and Disneyland. Just a spectacular 2024. So excited. I do have Tokyo coming up for the first time this year. But right now, so far in 2025, it's been pretty quiet.
My image looks like it's frozen. Can you hear me?
I can hear you 100%, and your facial expression has not changed in about a minute. So I don't know why that is. If you want to drop out, I don't know what you can try.
Let me try, and then I'll come back here. That just brings me up as a black screen.
Yeah. If you want to go out and come back in, I can vamp for a few seconds. I'll leave it up to you.
Can I do that without ending the stream?
Yeah, I think as long as I'm on, it'll be fine.
So, okay, if I just close the window?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Mike Celestino will be back in just a moment. Until then, you've got me, the guy who knows less about Star Wars than you. But he'll be here in just a moment. Hopefully, he'll be moving this time. Anyway, we're going to talk Star Wars 2025, what's coming up. A lot of books and a lot of comic books, but a couple of things on Disney Plus that have me excited. I can see Mike down there in the green room. He's back. He's moving. Good job.
Look at that. I'm back. I'll have to remember to cut that out. So where were we? We were talking about Laughing Place. I'll put an edit here in my notes. The other thing that you still do every week, when you're available, is Disney Trivia Live with your son Gideon. And we used to tune in for this all the time, but I think like post-pandemic, we were so desperate to get out that we've been doing stuff out in the world more often. So we apologize, Tori and I, for not joining you regularly like we used to. But we did over the holidays. Tori's family was in town, and we tuned in for, I think it was New Year's Eve show.
Yeah.
But how's it been going on Disney Trivia Live? What have you guys been up to over there?
So we're up to like 360 something episodes, I believe. We're still having a ton of fun every Tuesday and Saturday, but not every, because Gideon has a life now and things come up. But I'd say we do about half of our shows these days, and we're doing a lot of traveling. We end up doing about half of them. Still having a lot of fun. Still have a lot of regulars, and then just like you, there are people that did it forever, who then move on to other parts of their life. And then other people, we get new regulars who come in, and we understand that it's a fun gig, and then you got other stuff to do. There's no problem with that. However, I can understand if Mike Celestino does not want to come watch the show every week. I'm fine with that. But the guest booker needs to make another appearance. Okay. We do miss the guests that you managed to bring to the show.
I got to come up with something. Maybe is there any big anniversaries this year? It's the 50th anniversary of Jaws. Maybe we'll do Jaws trivia. It's not Disney at all.
We can make a connection, especially since that's Gideon's all-time favorite ride that he's ever been on. So.
Okay. There you go. Okay, let's I want to mention that we are recording this live on the Laughing Place YouTube channel. If you did want to comment or have any questions, we'll be happy to address them for you. Otherwise, we'll get into Doobie. This is your 4th time as the featured guest on Who's the Bossk.
I'm ready.
You've been on. You've popped up here and there. Otherwise, but you're up to level 4. I checked. I did some research. You're up to level 4 of the 5 Star Wars questions. I sent you these in advance. How do you feel about this? You ready for this? I
am ready for this. Yeah. None of these. Number 1 stumped me a little bit, but I think I'm ready.
Okay, yeah, number 1 is the trickier one, and then it kind of opens up and we explore stuff outside of the Star Wars universe. But number 1 of the 5 Star Wars questions, level 4, what is your favorite Star Wars weapon? And I said be specific. So if you're going to say a lightsaber, say, a specific like Obi-Wan Kenobi's lightsaber or yeah, because they are different. The designs are different. The colors are different. If you say a blaster, Han Solo's blaster, you know what I mean. All right. Favorite Star Wars weapon, Doobie, do you have one?
So my first thought was a blaster, and I'm glad I didn't go with that because you would have ridiculed me right now. So I ended up going with Darth Maul's double-sided thing he does at the end of Phantom Menace.
Great.
Because I can remember seeing that movie in theaters. The hype for that was, forget what you know about the movie right now and how bad it is. Imagine us after 20 years of no Star Wars being hyped for Phantom Menace and going into that theater. They could have been a black screen for 2 hours. That was going to be the greatest movie ever made while you were sitting there watching it. And at the end of that movie with that incredible music, which, I mean, that didn't disappoint. And then Darth Maul pulls out that double-sided lightsaber. That moment will live on forever. So that will go down as my favorite weapon.
Yeah, when that popped up in the trailer, I think that was the first time we had ever seen, I'm pretty 100% sure, actually, that was the first time we had seen a double-bladed lightsaber in live action. I want to say they had shown up in the comic books earlier than that, but it was certainly a very, very cool moment. And yes, that part of that movie definitely still holds up as being a great action scene. So terrific choice. Yeah, Darth Maul's double-bladed lightsaber. Let's say hi in the comments here to Bloom.
Hey, Bloom.
And then Johnny C was on the show last week.
Oh, wow.
And he's back to he's not familiar with Who's the Bossk. But yes, there are multiple levels. Johnny, when I invite you back later on, maybe later on in the year, we'll talk about Andor or something, and you can get to level 2 of the 5 Star Wars questions. But let's move on here. Number 2 of the 5 Star Wars questions, level 4. Here we go. We're going to explore outside of the Star Wars universe. Which Star Wars actor has had your favorite career outside of Star Wars?
So this was an impossible question. So I cheated and I just pivoted just a tiny bit on it. What I did was, in the list of my favorite movies, which Star Wars actor would be highest on that list was in a movie that is among my favorite movies.
Okay.
And then it became easy. And that would be Hayden Christensen, who was in a movie called Shattered Glass.
Yeah.
Where he plays the true story of a reporter who just made up stories for, I believe it was the New Republic. I love that movie. Was it Peter Sarsgaard, I think his name is in that movie. Sorry if I got the name wrong. One of those Sarsgaards. I love that movie to death. I've seen it so many times. That's my introduction to Hayden Christensen, I think. Maybe I saw Phantom Menace first. I'm not sure. But no, I must have seen Phantom Menace first. This is irrelevant. So I love that movie, and so I'm picking Hayden Christensen.
Okay. No, I saw Shattered Glass when it came out and loved it as well. I don't recall who the supporting cast was. Which Sarsgaard or Skarsgård showed up.
I feel bad. I don't want to get the wrong guy. It was. You're going to cut out this. Peter Sarsgaard. Trust yourself, Doobie. Trust yourself.
There you go.
Yeah, it also Hank Azaria plays a large part in it too.
Oh yeah,
really good
from
cast.
The Simpsons.
Really great movie.
Love it. Yeah, I got to watch that again. Shattered Glass. It's a good one with Hayden. Yeah. Number 3, Same question, but with director. Which Star Wars director, either of a movie or a TV show or whatever, has had your favorite career outside of Star Wars?
So first I did a Google on Star Wars directors, and then I had to Google each one of them to see the movies they've done. It was tough. I almost said Rian Johnson because I really like. First of all, I really like his Star Wars movie.
Mm-hmm.
I love
Last
that.
Jedi. Mm-hmm.
I love that, even though so many people hate it. That I love that movie. And then his Glass Onion series is so good. But ultimately, I went with J.J. Abrams. He's done so many things I love. The new Star Trek, Lost. What was it?
Cloverfield.
Clover.
Super 8.
Yeah, Super 8 is one I was just trying to think of. Cloverfield. Yeah. He is my kind of director. So I think he's done some Mission Impossibles, right? So almost nothing he does do I not like. So that's an easy one. J.J. Abrams.
Actually, I think about it, I don't think he directed Cloverfield, but he definitely produced it. But he has such a big producing career as well. Yeah, with this company Bad Robot, and you know my thoughts about Lost. I'm a Lost obsessee, as you are. So
rightly so.
I have not watched that documentary yet. Is he interviewed in there?
He is. I'm going to save that one for a later segment of our show.
Okay. Okay. Great. Okay. I don't want to spoil that. Number 4. Okay, this is a good one. What is your favorite Star Wars reference or Easter egg in other media? And the example I always cite here is in Back to the Future, when Marty dresses up in the radiation outfit and goes to George McFly's house, and he's like, "My name is Darth Vader." Something like that from other media that references Star Wars. What do you think?
Wow, I could have used that example in your question. This one's a hard one for me. I hope this counts, in the Great Movie Ride.
Sure.
In the Indiana Jones scene, there are hieroglyphics on the wall, and one of the hieroglyphics is R2D2 and C3PO. So I went with that.
That's a terrific choice, and it comes from Raiders of the Lost Ark. So there's a hieroglyph in Raiders of the Lost Ark with C3PO and R2D2.
Really?
You can see it when they're lifting up the Ark, and they lifted that and put it right into the Great Movie Ride.
I thought that was originally a Great Movie Ride. I had no idea that was actually from the movie. Wow.
Yeah, it is from the movie. Wonderful choice. Yeah, from both the ride and the film. Number 5, the 5th and final of the 5 Star Wars questions. Level 4. What is your favorite Lucasfilm project outside of the Star Wars franchise? Did you Google a list of Lucasfilm projects?
I sure did. I sure did, because I knew it wasn't Indiana Jones. I am of the opinion Indiana Jones is one of the most overrated.
Okay, fair enough.
But there is a smaller movie, not that small when it came out, but kind of faded into history, that I loved in theaters and love to this day, and that would be Willow.
Just came out on 4K disc, and I got to pick that up, but I haven't gotten it yet.
I just stream it. I know you don't go for that.
Can't hug a streaming file, as you know. Yeah, Willow. I saw it in the theater growing up.
Yep.
It's a charming adventure fantasy film. What did you think of the Disney Plus series?
I actually liked it. I was disappointed it's not only not renewed, but just ripped away and never to be seen again.
Wiped from existence.
Yeah,
that was clean by the wrath of God.
That was one of the Disney Pluses that I actually pretty much. It was fun. I mean, it really captured the spirit of the original movie, and then of course to have Warwick Davis actually be in it. It was fun. I'm sad it's gone forever, really.
What a weird world we live in now, where that may likely never see the light of day ever again. I don't know.
Whereas the original, you can watch anytime you want to.
Yeah, get on 4K. I'm going to. Yeah. All right. That's the end of.
If I can, she makes the point. Not only can't you hug a streaming file, you can't even rely on it to be around.
Right. Yeah. The only way to watch that would be illegally at this point, which I guess if you want to seek it out, that would be the way to do it. Let's get into Star Wars headlines for this week. The big news coming out this past week. So there have been so many Star Wars movies announced or leaked out through the trades, the Hollywood trade publications, that I kind of lost track that there was a movie in development from director Sean Levy, who made one of the biggest movies of last year, Deadpool and Wolverine. He also did Free Guy. He did a movie. What was the one where Ryan Reynolds meets his younger self? My mom made me watch it. I forgot the title of it already. Adam Project was on Netflix. Anyway, Sean Levy is directing a Star Wars movie, I suppose, and it looks like Ryan Gosling very big famous actor, is going to star in it. Doobie, do you think Ryan Gosling will fit into the Star Wars universe?
Ryan Gosling is actually one of the greatest actors of our time. I think he can fit in wherever he chooses to fit in.
Yeah. And he's Ken. He's Ken from Barbie, you know.
Right.
He's been in a ton of stuff. I've enjoyed him, you know, La La Land and
He was in Fall Guy, right? Yeah, I loved him in Fall Guy.
Fall
And
Guy.
yeah, he'll be fine.
He's a Disney Parks nerd. We know that.
Yep, and he was a Mickey Mouse Club kid, wasn't he?
Oh,
MC.
I did not realize that with Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera and those.
Yeah, back in the day.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I think he's gonna fit right in, and I can picture him, you know, running around in the Star Wars galaxy. I think it's gonna be fun. Sean Levy's a talented director. He's made some fun movies, and I think I'm looking forward to this. Should, as Rebecca, your wife, says, you know, you can't get too excited about these things until they actually enter production. So,
have any of the things they've announced happened? Any of the? I feel like they've announced 3 or 4 series of movies coming, and none of them has happened, right?
Well, at Star Wars Celebration 2023 in London, they announced 3 Star Wars movies. None of those have gone into production. There was the Rey movie. There's a the Origin of the Jedi Order movie, and then Dave Filoni's movie that's going to like wrap up the Mando verse. But the movie that they've actually shot now is Jon Favreau's movie, The Mandalorian and Grogu. And we'll talk about that. Well, it's not coming out this year, 2026, next year. So I guess the answer to your question is no. But they do make other things while they're not making the things that they've announced. Second item here in Star Wars headlines: the music of Star Wars Skeleton Crew is available to stream. This music was written by composer Mick Giacchino, son of Michael Giacchino. Doobie, did you watch Skeleton Crew? And if so, what did you think of the music?
I love Michael Giacchino. His lost music is just spectacular. I watched about the first half of Skeleton Crew. It was exactly what it was supposed to be. And Goonies is just one of those movies that was great when I was 12, and I never ever need to see it again.
Okay.
So, but I can't remember the music of Skeleton Crew, but I do know if it was Michael Giacchino, it was spectacular.
It was Mick Giacchino.
Mick, his son. As soon as I said that, I'm like, I knew I got it wrong.
Mick Giacchino also did The Penguin on HBO, which I thought was a great show and had some good music. So I actually like the music of Skeleton Crew quite a bit. I've been streaming it during my drives now since it's available. You can listen to it on Spotify and a couple other places. But yeah, hopefully they'll put it out on vinyl so I can hug it. Third item.
Yes.
Actor Ahmed Best, who you know as Jar Jar Binks, and visual effects supervisor John Knoll from Industrial Light and Magic have been added to the guest list for Star Wars Celebration in Japan in April. Are you a Jar Jar guy, Doobie? Or
I'm not a Jar Jar
apologist.
I'm not a Jar Jar hater, but I'm definitely not a Jar Jar apologist. You know, I take that back. I am a Jar Jar hater. He's okay on his own, but he has no place in this universe. It's just I like movies that take themselves seriously. They can be funny and stuff, but that take themselves seriously. I don't like when a movie generally just that otherwise takes itself seriously takes time to just be dumb. And I feel like that's what they were doing there, and it just doesn't work for me.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of right there with you on that. But Ahmed Best more recently played a character named Kelleran Beck, who's a Jedi Master. He popped up in The Mandalorian, I believe, one of those shows. And he was on that Jedi Temple Challenge, the kids show. So he's, go ahead.
I was going to say, it does make me happy considering the beating he took, that he is now welcomed back and loved in the Star Wars universe, much like Hayden Christensen.
No, that's my exactly my thoughts as well for both Hayden and Ahmed Best. Like, yeah, I may not have loved that particular, and I blame George Lucas mostly for any of this that I didn't care for. But I would never want anyone to be mistreated in any way by the fandom or otherwise.
Maybe Jake Lloyd is next.
Yeah, no, I think that would be. I honestly, if Jake Lloyd showed up at Celebration, I think he would be welcome with open arms
For sure.
and supported. Uh, yeah. Anyway, let's move on. Comic books. We got the announcement of another. So there's an ongoing Star Wars title. They filled in the gaps between Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back starting in 2015, and then after they did, I think 75 issues of that, it caught up to The Empire Strikes Back, and then they did the period between Empire and Return of the Jedi. They did 50 issues of that. That ended last year. Now they're going to do the period after Return of the Jedi, which they just finished, the Battle of Jakku. So that was like the year after Return of the Jedi. Now they're going to take the ball and run from that point on with writer Alex Segura, who wrote this Battle of Jakku miniseries that just wrapped up this week. And that returns May 7th. Doobie, I don't think you're a comic guy at all, right?
Not now, not when I was 12. I don't think I've ever
No.
read a comic book in my life.
Wow, okay. Well, one time, this is like a little industry insider with entertainment journalism. One time I hung out, I've never said this publicly before. I hung out with the editor-in-chief of comicbook.com.
Oh.
Right? At a media event, and a couple hours into our having to spend an entire day together, he told me he had never read a comic book.
No way.
This is
Scandal.
it's going back like 8 years now, so I don't even know if he's still there, but I was floored by that. Comicbook.com. Okay.
Wow. I love that.
Let's see. I read and reviewed this book came out last summer. It's called Star Wars: The Rise and Fall of the Galactic Empire by Dr. Chris Kempshall, and it's an in-universe history book. So it's written from the perspective of this character named Beaumont Kin, who was played by Dominic Moynihan from Lost in Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. And it takes the book is written from the end of the timeline, basically after The Rise of Skywalker, from that character's perspective, talking about the whole history of the rise and fall of the Galactic Empire. I love this concept that you can get this kind of in-universe history book. What a specific character would know based on research that he's done about the history of this fictional political movement. Yeah. Dictatorship. It's super fascinating. I really liked it a lot. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't read any of this stuff, but I do have to say, just from listening to you and Rebecca, and I used to watch when you guys did the show together, watch that a lot.
Yeah.
I really like the way Star Wars does stories and books from a completely different perspective, instead of just a story within,
Right.
another narrative story. Something like this, or I really like their, Star Wars from another point of view, I think it's called.
Yes.
Just to be so imaginative in the universe is wonderful. I do appreciate that, even if I've never read them.
It is very clever and very creative, and that's available now. The Rise and Fall of The Rise and Fall of the Galactic Empire by Dr. Chris Kempshall. He's also in real life, in the real world, he is a historian of, I think, World War I specifically. So he brings that expertise and perspective to his writing there. You can go read my review on laughingplace.com. Lastly, this week, I want to mention there was a Hasbro fan stream the other day, and they revealed new action figures from Ahsoka and from the prequel era of Star Wars. There's a box set, like a battle pack of battle droids from the prequels. Plus, you get from the vintage collection, the 3 3/4 inch scale action figures. They're doing Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati, who are the dark Jedi characters from Ahsoka. There's a few more that got announced. Anakin Skywalker in the Black Series, Captain Rex in the Black Series. You can find all images of all these figures that were revealed over at laughingplace.com. And they're always, Hasbro is always putting out new toys. Very excited to see what they have coming up. I'm sure they'll have a presence at Star Wars Celebration. I'm sure they'll announce more stuff there. Okay, let's get into upcoming Star Wars content in 2025. I wrote a post about this, I think, at the beginning of last week. Doobie, if you wouldn't mind bringing that up. Yeah. there it is. It's on laughingplace.com. It's called From Andor Season 2 to Visions Volume 3 and Beyond. All the Star Wars, everything Star Wars coming in 2025. Now let's scroll down here and get started. So this is in chronological order by release. And yes, there is a lot of stuff on the publishing side. There's no Star Wars movie coming out this year in theaters. Well, we haven't had one since 2019. And there's only one live action series that we know of that we will be talking about, and there's one animated series that we know of that we will also mention. But otherwise, it's mostly publishing stuff. But we'll go through all or most of it and touch on all of it. This first item here is marking a decade of this new era of Star Wars comic books. It's called Star Wars: A New Legacy. And I believe it's by several different authors contributing a few different stories with mostly new characters that were introduced in this new era of Star Wars comics. Basically, since Disney bought Lucasfilm and since the comics were relaunched by Marvel Comics in 2015, we've had that decade going. On the cover there, you can see Black Chrysanthemum on the top left. He's a Wookiee bounty hunter. Dr. Aphra there is on the top right. In the middle is Baylor Valance. He's a bounty hunter that was introduced in the old Marvel Star Wars comics in the 70s, but they brought him back for the new canon. And then Sana Starros is there on the bottom left. The droid BT-1 and 000. So they are kind of celebrating this newer era of Star Wars comics. I'm excited for this one. I think it's just a one shot, so it's not like a continuing series. Let's move on to the next one there, Doobie. What do you know about the High Republic, Doobie?
I know it was a big deal when they announced it, and that's all I know.
Okay, well, it's still going, and we're going to touch on this quite a bit as we go through this list, because this year, actually, the next 6 months or so, are going to see the conclusion of the Star Wars: The High Republic storytelling initiative, which is set a couple hundred years before the prequel trilogy. So the Jedi are at their height in the galaxy. They're fighting against this threat called the Nihil, which are these ruthless kind of marauders. And the Nihil do have a couple advantages over the Jedi in that they have these creatures that could kind of like eat the Force. And if a Jedi comes in contact with one of these creatures, they're like turned into this lifeless ashen husk. It's pretty creepy. And the first title coming out of the High Republic this year is in the comic world. It's called Star Wars: The High Republic Adventures. What is the subtitle there at the bottom? Oh, the annual. Yeah, this is the 2025 annual from Dark Horse Comic. And again, this is written by a number of different authors. And it will be a one-shot title, again, from Dark Horse Comics. So that's coming out pretty soon. Then we get to, okay, this is the most exciting comic I think that that's coming out in 2025 from Star Wars. This is called Star Wars: Legacy of Vader. It's from Charles Soule. He's one of my favorite current Star Wars writers. And it focuses on the character of Kylo Ren, actually. And it's set between episodes, let's see, 8 and 9 of the larger Star Wars timeline. So it's between The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker. And it's all about what Kylo Ren was up to between those two movies, which is an area they haven't really explored all that much. I know some new information came out about that recently, where I think he's like trying to hunt down the last remaining Jedi who had escaped Order 66, some like 50 years earlier in the timeline. So I think this will be pretty interesting. And yeah, Charles Soule, he's just one of my absolute favorite writers writing right now for Star Wars. So I have high hopes for this title. Doobie, what are your thoughts on Kylo Ren as a character?
I think he's a pretty cool character. It's hard to separate him from Adam Driver, who's just such a fantastic actor that I'm drawn to him. But yeah, I think that was one of the highlights of the sequel trilogy was the villain that they chose, Kylo Ren. I did like him quite a bit.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And yeah, Adam Driver had a lot to do with that, with his performance. Really interesting character, and excited to get more of his story. let's see. Johnny C had a comment here. Sitting here at my store waiting for them to go up on my retailer site. Oh yeah, so Johnny C has a comic book shop, and he's waiting to order some of this stuff. As a bookstore comic shop owner, I'm okay with that. I'm not sure what he meant by that, but
so Johnny C, have you ever read a comic book, or are you the owner that's never actually read one?
The Bad Batch is returning. So the Bad Batch series ended. The animated series is over on Disney Plus, but the team is returning with new adventures in the world of comics. And from Dark Horse Comics, we're getting the Bad Batch. Again, I'm forgetting the subtitle, and I can't read it there. It's a little small.
Clone Force 9. Oh, Ghost Agents.
Bad Batch Ghost Agents, right? So that's coming from Dark Horse Comics, and I know this takes place. I believe it takes place when the whole team is together. So before, spoiler alert, Tech dies at the end of the penultimate season. You'll get more adventures with the whole team together. Bloom said, "I'm so happy I quit reading the High Republic. I'm a squeamish person, and I hate horror or anything creepy." There is some creepy, dark stuff in the High Republic. That is very, very true. And Johnny C clarified his first comment was about the new Hasbro figures. Okay, gotcha. Okay, understood. All right, Bad Batch getting a new comic book. What's the date on that one, Doobie? If you just go up a little bit.
February 12th.
February 12th. Okay, let's go to the next one. Then also in February, the main Star Wars The High Republic comic book is returning from Marvel Comics, and this is written by Cavan Scott, who's probably my second favorite current Star Wars writer. And the cool thing about this comic book returning, so this is going to be the final arc of the whole Star Wars The High Republic initiative from Marvel Comics, and we're going to get to spend more time with Kel Naka, who is the Jedi from the Wookiee Jedi from the Acolyte. He's going to show up, and there's going to be a little bit of a crossover with this Star Wars The High Republic comic book. Bloom said they just gagged, and a shiver went down my spine from the creatures, the nameless creatures that are eating the Jedi and the Force in the High Republic. Yeah, they're a force to be reckoned with, a nice threat against the Jedi. Let's go to the next item here. February 25th, there's a new novel. So I have actually read this already, and it's up there. It might be in my top 5 Star Wars novels I've ever read. I was so excited when they announced this, and I was so excited that they sent me an early copy. I think they sent it to me in November, and it doesn't come out till February. It's called Star Wars Reign of the Empire by Alexander Freed, who wrote the recent Alphabet Squadron trilogy, which I loved. Alexander Freed, another really, really wonderful writer writing for Star Wars these days. And he gets to tackle in this novel, it's all about the Imperial Senate in the period immediately following Order 66 and the rise of the Empire. Doobie, are you interested at all in the political side of Star Wars?
Nah.
So they dealt with this a lot in prequel trilogy. There was people complained there's too much. It's all about people sitting and talking about, trade blockades or whatever, the Trade Federation. This it didn't work for me in the prequels either, but it works for me here. It's super, super fascinating.
I could see it working here. In the movie, it's not enough about it to get deep into it, but it's too much to,
right.
When you want to get to the part that it actually is about. But in a book where they actually have time to delve into it, I could definitely see it being interesting. So
exactly. And that's what this is all about. It focuses on the characters of Mon Mothma, who we get to spend a lot of time with in Andor, the series. Bail Organa, who's Princess Leia's adoptive father and another senator in the Imperial Senate. And then the third character is Saw Gerrera. He's kind of a guerrilla extremist rebel, and he's not really a point of view character in the story. We watch him from a new member of his team that kind of comes aboard and observes Saw Gerrera through that way. So he remains kind of aloof, but it's just a really interesting relationship between all of these people and how they are reacting to the rise of the Empire and how they plan to fight the Empire through various different strategies. Each of them have a different approach to wanting to take down the Empire. And this is just at the very beginning of that time period, right after Revenge of the Sith. So you get to see the seeds of the rebellion start to be planted. I can't recommend this book enough. Doesn't come out until late February, so you have about a month left before this book hits bookstores or Amazon or wherever you want to get it. But yeah, again, one of my favorites so far, and this is the first of a trilogy. The other two will be written by different authors, but I am very excited to see what they do with it. And I think because the other two entries in this trilogy come out after season 2 of Andor, I think they will be connecting with that show a little bit more as it goes along. High praise, high recommendation from me. Reign of the Empire coming out in February. The Mask of Fear is the subtitle on that one.
It's got an awesome cover too.
Yeah, really, really cool cover. This is a kid's book called Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, Batu Adventure from Little Golden Books. Not the kind of stuff that is targeted at me, but we don't get a ton of content tying into Galaxy's Edge anymore since the land has been open for 5+ years. And it's just cool to see, Vi Marati, the original character they created for the land, facing off against Kylo Ren. And then there's the main new character, the kid on the cover there too. It just seems like a fun thing that kids will enjoy if they get to go to the theme park and then read a story about, a story that takes place on Batu in Black Spire Outpost. Have you got to spend a lot of time in Galaxy's Edge recently, Doobie?
Not recently. I do love Galaxy's Edge. I love it. Unfortunately, the rest of my family is not quite as in love with. I shouldn't say that. Rebecca loves the land, not the rides.
Yeah.
So I try to get there as much as I can because I think they did a fantastic job with Galaxy's Edge.
And Johnny C points out that Little Golden Books have had a huge comeback lately. I noticed that. I forget where we were, but I saw on the shelf at some store there were all these little golden books that were retellings of classic beloved movies. It's like I forget which ones they were, but some stuff that you wouldn't think of as like kids movies even are getting their own little golden books.
Can I lament for a second to you since we're on Batu? I have a husband. No, I'm.
You are a husband.
I have a wife and a son who prefer Millennium Falcon, Smuggler's Run to Rise of the Resistance. Do you have sympathy for me?
I do, because you know what kind of Star Wars fan I am, and I almost never go on Smuggler's Run, and I try to go on Rise of the Resistance as often as I can. Fortunately, and when Nick Tierce hears this, he's not going to be happy to hear me say this, but they are changing Smuggler's Run, we know, next year to match. They're going to put in a Mandalorian and Grogu story to match with the movie. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, hopefully there are new stuff coming to Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, and that will be one of them, kind of refreshing that attraction. When they first opened Smuggler's Run with Galaxy's Edge, I thought it was going to have multiple like you would get on, it'd be a random of like 3 or 5 adventures or however many, like Star Tours is now. You have a different experience every time you go on it, but it just got so stale so quickly. Yeah, it's a tricky one. Let's see. This is an interesting one. Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. They had a comic book adaptation in the works back in 2020, which was the year after the movie came out, and then it got canceled or postponed at the very least because of the pandemic. Marvel Comics shut down for a few months, and they were right in the middle of writing and illustrating this, and it never got completed. So now they've brought back the artist and the writer, and they've finally finished making this Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. I think it's a 5 or 6 issue adaptation of the movie, and that'll be coming out I believe early spring of this year. Yeah, there's the date, February 28th, end of February. Yeah, there you go. Johnny C likes Star Tours the most, then Smuggler's Run, then Rise of the Resistance. So,
does my wife. As does my wife right above
wow.
him, which is, I mean, I'll put Star Tours above Smugglers, no question. But Rise may be the greatest attraction ever created, ever.
Yeah, Rise of the Resistance, I'm so impressed by how it combines just about everything I love about theme park attractions into one thing. So yeah, I'm kind of baffled by that. But then I've heard Rebecca say she doesn't like the interactive, doesn't
Rebecca
like the
Rebecca's reasoning I can understand. She doesn't like people the immersiveness of it,
yeah,
especially with the
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 First
type of
Order.
villain they have. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not. I can understand that. My son has no excuse, no excuse whatsoever. Neither do you, Johnny C. I don't know you at all, but you have no excuse.
Speaking of things that were delayed, this Star Wars hyperspace story is Qui-Gon. I think it's like a graphic novel type thing. That was supposed to come out like a year ago and it got delayed. This is from Dark Horse Comics. They had a mini series called Hyperspace Stories that wrapped up last year. And I think this was supposed to come out right after that finished. But now it's finally hitting comic shops in March. So that should be fun if you're a fan of Qui-Gon Jinn. Then, okay, this is a new Star Wars comic book title from Marvel Comics. It's called Star Wars Jedi Knights. And it is exactly what it sounds like. It's not set during the High Republic. It is set, I think, in the period right before the prequels, or maybe even during the prequel trilogy era. And it stars a lot of familiar Jedi that you see on the cover there. I see Yaddle. I think Dooku is in there. I think Qui-Gon is in there. Yoda. Um, Ki-Adi-Mundi is there. So all your favorite Jedi from the prequel trilogy era are going to be starring in this. I believe it's an ongoing comic book series from Marvel Comics. And it should be a lot of fun. You know, this is not my favorite period of the Star Wars storytelling timeline, but I think with the talent they have aboard, this could be a lot of fun. I know that there are a lot of people who really want to see more adventures with the Jedi of this era. So I think people will be into that. Let's move on to the next one. Star Wars, the complete locations. This is a reference guide for all the locations in the Star Wars galaxy. On the cover there, you can see it is the planet Mustafar with Darth Vader's castle. Is this something that you would find informative, Doobie?
So
All the
if it's a
locations?
if it's a picture book, I would
Yeah.
I would actually consider having this. If someone sent me this for free, I would keep it because the Star Wars locations are beautiful and
Yeah.
so varied. That yeah, I would love to have a book like this to look through. If it's a descriptive book where I'm learning
Yeah.
the actual locations of Star Wars, I might pass that on to someone who'd appreciate it more.
I believe it will have pictures in it. That's my understanding. It will be a detailed guide. Because I think this is an updated version actually of something that's come out before. And yeah, if you want to learn more about all the fictional locations that so much design work, like you said, is put into these things, and then they think about how does it fit into the universe. And Johnny C notes that it's a new updated edition with a new cover. So that's coming out. What's the date on that? If you scroll up just a little
Yeah.
bit.
Oh, way up. March 11th.
March 11th. Yeah. Okay. Star Wars: The Complete Locations. This is the
Ooh,
updated
the
new edition.
Narkina 5 prison complex. Is that from?
Yes,
Yeah,
Andor.
that sounds
Yep.
cool. All right, now I'm interested. Now I'm interested.
So yeah, they took a book that came out before and added all the new locations that we've seen in more recent Star Wars content. So that should be pretty fun and interesting. Let's get back into theme parks for a minute. Season of the Force is returning to Disneyland March 28th through May 11th. So usually this has been around the springtime to coincide with Star Wars Day, which would be May the 4th. And I think, as far as we know so far, the only new thing that they have announced for Season of the Force returning this year is there's a projection show that will play alongside the Fire of the Rising Moon's audio performance, and that goes along with the Disneyland fireworks. So whatever fireworks show happens to be happening at Disneyland at that time, and if you watch it from Galaxy's Edge, they will play John Williams music that has been edited and synced along with the fireworks show. Is this something that you've had a chance to experience, Doobie?
So it says that that projections and music is going to happen every night, and then when there are nights with fireworks, the fireworks will enhance it. So I'm not sure if that's new, but the fact that it's a nightly thing now, which is actually really cool. Unfortunately, I have not been to Disneyland for Seasons of the Force. I've seen your video of the music with the fireworks, and it looks pretty cool. I hope to make it down there, but no, I have not.
Okay, yeah, I'm excited for this to return, and even outside of Season of the Force, they've been continuing to do the Fire of the Rising Moons, no matter when, if there's fireworks happening. So you're saying even when there's not fireworks happening during Season of the Force, they will be doing the projection.
Fire of the Rising Moons will perform nightly at Galaxy's Edge with new projection effects and galactic music, enhanced with fireworks on select nights. So it's just
cool.
That's actually a really nice addition. I'm very happy to see that.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to checking that out for sure. And then whatever else new, hopefully some new merchandise, hopefully some new characters would be great.
Look behind you, Mike. You don't need new merchandise.
Yeah.
Speaking of, though, let me show off my merchandise. My wife got me this.
Oh.
Like my magic 8-ball here. Okay.
Sorry, yeah. So it's called Force and Telling Vader. It's from Hasbro. I've had a chance to play with this. It's a lot of fun. It is like a magic 8-ball, or a little bit like the Twilight Zone episode with William Shatner when he one of my absolute favorites, Nick of Time, I think.
The Devil. That's a great episode.
Yeah. But that's a lot of fun. Yeah, you ask it a question, it gives you a yes or no answer. Johnny C says, as someone who's closer to Orlando, I'm always bummed that the land does way more cool Star Wars thing. Oh, sorry, Disneyland does way more cool Star Wars thing that World doesn't. I think because Disneyland has more regular guests, they tend to change things up a little bit more often. And
back in the day,
you
got Star Wars. So back in the day, you got Star Wars weekends, which made all the Disneyland people jealous. But those went away.
Okay, so that's theme parks. Let's get back into books here.
Back to books.
High Republic. So this is the final young adult novel in the High Republic. It's called Star Wars: The High Republic Into the Light by Claudia Gray, who also wrote the first young adult novel in the High Republic, which was called Into the Dark. It forms, look at that. It comes around full circle. Into the Dark. Now it's Into the Light. Very excited for this. Love Claudia Gray as a writer. What's the date on this one, Doobie?
We got April 1st.
April 1st. No fooling. This is coming out April 1st. So we're really getting into the end game here for the High Republic this spring. Very excited for this. Let's go to the next item. I'm going to look at the date first this time.
Oh, sorry.
April 8th. High Republic, Edge of Balance Premonition. This is the next in a series of manga from the High Republic. I have never read you've never read a comic book. I've never read a manga, including the ones that have come out previously from the High Republic. I have not gotten around to those yet. I think you read them backwards, not backwards to them, but backwards to us. Like a manga goes right to left. That's my only understanding, because it's a Japanese comic book. But I suppose with Star Wars Celebration coming up this year in Japan, we're going to be celebrating these manga, and maybe I'll get around to reading this eventually. It looks like Yoda is starring in this one. It's written by Daniel Jose Older, who's done a bunch of Star Wars stuff recently. And we're getting back into theme parks next again.
Yay.
Select dates: April 8th, April 10th, April 22nd, April 24th, April 20. What's the next one there? Say 29th?
April 29th, May 1st, May 4th, and May 6th.
Yeah. May 4th, of course, being Star Wars Day. We're going to have Star Wars Night, Disneyland After Dark, coming back to Disneyland. They've done this for many years running now, and I think I've gone every year. I'm not sure if I'll be going this year. Hopefully, I'll get to cover it for Laughing Place. They have character photo ops. They have special merchandise, special food, special entertainment. Have you done any of these Disneyland After Darks?
Yeah.
Doobie?
Last year, Rebecca and I did Sweethearts Night, which I was very jealous seeing that you just got to do Sweethearts Night.
Yes.
I'm like, should have been me. No, just kidding. But loved it. It was such a cool event. I love pink. Pink was everywhere. The food was great. All the couples and everything, all the photo spots. We waited for a couple of them. That can definitely kill your day, but we did wait for a couple. So I imagine Star Wars is just the same, but Star Wars themed. I think they do a really, really nice job with these.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun. Like you said, we just did Sweethearts Night a couple nights ago. And I think, honestly, when these first started, when Disneyland After Dark first started, I've been covering them since the beginning. Uh, they frustrated me because I would see people waiting in hours-long lines to meet their favorite characters, and the event only lasts 4 hours. So you would get to do 1 or 2 things and it was over, and I was like, "How are people happy with this?" But they have really, really improved it over the years. The lines are shorter. They often do this thing where you're not even kind of pausing and talking to the character. You'll just kind of like stroll past them now, which I don't know if people are satisfied by that, but it does make the lines move much faster. And I think in general, I would say the attendance has been capped at a lower amount, so there's fewer people in the park that are filling up those lines, and more people, out experiencing everything, spending money too, which is, I'm sure, what Disney wants. But yeah, I think they've turned these things around. They seem I'm there as a journalist, but I think I have observed people having a better time than they used to at these events, and they certainly do. They are popular as well. So they endure Disneyland After Dark. Their after hours ticketed events and the Star Wars nights are coming up. I think they go on sale next week. So you can check that out on laughingplace.com. We have a lot more information about that. I do want to clarify really quickly. Johnny mentioned that a normal manga would read right to left, but the Star Wars ones are left to right. So they're kind of mimicking the style of a Japanese manga, but in the order that you would be used to as an American consumer. He says he did the Halloween After Dark parade thing at Disney World. So that would be Mickey's Not So Scary, probably.
Yes, of course. Yep.
Okay. Back to comic books.
So Mike, I'll be right back. Just talk a little extra for this one. Won't be long at all.
Yeah, no problem. Let's talk about comics again really quickly. This is Star Wars Hyperspace Stories, Code Breaker from Dark Horse Comics. So this stars Poe Dameron, actually, and BB-8. Poe Dameron had his own Marvel Star Wars comic book some years ago, written by Charles Soule. And this one is jumping over to Dark Horse Comics, and it's going to be, I don't know if it's an ongoing title or a mini series, but it is cool that they're diving back into the sequel trilogy era. I think this will be, I'm not sure if this takes place. Let's see. I'm going to bring up the description of this and we'll read the specifics of it really quickly while Doobie's away. Okay, here we go. This is the description here. Poe Dameron, ace resistance pilot, and his droid companion BB-8 are sent to investigate a piece of First Order tech used to decode resistance messages. Standing between them and their objective is an infamous TIE fighter pilot. Can Poe outfly his enemy, or will the mission go down in flames before it begins? It doesn't say at what point in the timeline this takes place. Johnny thinks it's right before The Force Awakens. So prior to the events of the sequel trilogy. It is written by Ethan Sachs, who has been on this show as a guest. He wrote the Star Wars Bounty Hunters comic book that ended last year, and he's a really fun writer. So I think that will be a good title. The great news, Doobie, is I've brought up the article on my own browser.
Oh,
so now
you're
I can
in control.
See the dates. No, I'm not in
Oh,
control.
you can see the
dates. You don't have to keep scrolling up to show the dates anymore. I'll just keep up with you here.
Okay.
This next item is going to be a big one to talk about.
Big one.
Yeah. So Star Wars, we've mentioned it a couple times already in this episode, but Star Wars Celebration 2025, Japan. April 18th to the 20th, put on by Reed Pop and Lucasfilm. This will be, I think, my 7th ever Star Wars celebration and my 6th as media. But very, very excited for this. Very excited to go to Japan for the first time ever. Check out the theme parks there. What about you, Doobie? What do you think about Star Wars Celebration being in Japan this year?
I love that Star Wars is so international and they can do that. And it gives me, not that I'm going to Star Wars Celebration, I don't think, but
Yeah.
it does give Benji a reason to go to Japan, which means it gives me a reason to go to Japan. So I'm looking forward to our first trip to Tokyo Disneyland. But yeah, just be cool. I like that D23 goes all over the world. Now Star Wars Celebration all over the world. It's just a wonderful thing.
Yeah, can't wait for this. This is going to be the big event that we're building up to just 3 months from now. And I mentioned it on the show a couple weeks ago, but Who's the Bossk does have a panel there. We're going to be on the HoloNet news stage. So if you are attending, I hope you'll show up. I haven't announced yet who the guest is going to be. Still kind of narrowing that down, getting all the details together. But
it won't be me. Don't worry.
It won't be Disney. But within the next month or so, we should have that information out there and available for anybody attending Star Wars Celebration. You can come see me on the HoloNet news stage with my guest. Should be a pretty exciting panel, and the whole event in general should be pretty exciting. We'll get some big news coming out of there, and just being, no matter where they hold Star Wars Celebration every other year or whatever, it's just so much fun to be in a place with everybody so excited about Star Wars from all walks of life, all periods, all ages of the Star Wars fandom. And I'm really looking forward to it again. I think it should be a blast.
It will.
Can't wait. What's that?
It will. I have no doubt. Yeah. Are you costuming?
I don't think I will. It's tough for me to wear a costume to a convention when I'm covering it for work because I have to do so much running around. I did wear my Halloween costume to LA Comic-Con, I think a year or so ago, and it got a lot of attention and a lot of compliments, but it's not something that I would do again because I was trying to work at the same time.
Yeah.
And sometimes these costumes can be really elaborate and sometimes painful to walk around it. So, if I'm going to cosplay to an event, I want to be able to focus on just doing that, I think.
Sure.
And there's so much else going on that I would have to divide my attention to. Okay, let's move on to the next very big thing here that I know Doobie is going to have some input about this.
Yes.
Star Wars Andor Season 2. It's been, I think, 2.5 years at this point when this one's going to come out since the previous season. I loved it. I thought it was great. It's kind of Star Wars for adults. It's this season is going to take place over 4 years. So the 4 years prior to the events of Rogue One. And it's going to lead right up to the beginning of Rogue One. They've said this many times. The ending of Andor Season 2 is going to match up to the beginning of Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Doobie, what are your thoughts on this upcoming season?
That's so cute. Since Rogue One ends with Star Wars, that the Rogue One bookends. I mean, Andor may be my favorite of all the Disney Plus shows. It's hard, Mandalorian was so day one that it's hard to compare. But I loved Andor. I have a tendency to drop off of these shows. Like I still never seen the final episode of Ahsoka, but Andor had me from beginning to end, and I'm very excited. It's just a great show. Love it.
It is great, and in addition to everybody who's returning from season 1, we also get the addition of Alan Tudyk, Disney regular Alan Tudyk, coming back as K2SO from Rogue One. Sorry. I said Rogue One earlier, but I meant coming back from season 1 of Andor. Plus, we get Alan Tudyk as K2SO, and what's the actor's name as director? Ben Mendelsohn as director. Orson Krennic is coming back. It's just a stacked deck of amazing actors,
and another
great storytelling. Stellan Skarsgård, Tony Gilroy is back as showrunner. This might be the best. I think this might turn out to be the best of all these seasons of live action Disney Plus Star Wars shows Very excited for this. And it just so happens to start right around the time of Star Wars Celebration. So I have a feeling this will be heavily represented in whatever way at that event. Very excited for this. What's the date? No, sorry.
You have it now.
I told you I didn't have to do that anymore. April 22nd, Disney Plus, Star Wars Andor Season 2. Can't wait. There's another manga, The Edge of Balance Volume 3 coming out. Again, this is the part of the High Republic I am least informed on, but that will be available on... No, sorry, Volume 4 of The Edge of Balance on April 22nd. Star Wars Women of the Galaxy by our friend Amy Ratcliffe, who has been on this very podcast, comes out April 29th. This is another reference book, again, celebrating the ladies of a galaxy far, far away. 125 illustrations. I haven't read the first volume, but this is the updated edition. So it's going to be more... you've got Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka Tano there on the cover. Speaking of Women of the Galaxy, another kids book, Star Wars World of Reading. This is level 1. So teaching kids how to read using their favorite characters from the Star Wars galaxy. Not something that I will probably get to review, but a very fun way to educate kids. If they're Star Wars fans, we get more Star Wars comics coming from Dark Horse Comics. High Republic Adventures, The Battle of Eriadu. Again, this is all part of the big climax of Star Wars, The High Republic. They've been building up to this Battle of Eriadu for so long, and this will be written by Alyssa Long. It'll be out April 30th. Free Comic Book Day this year is May the 3rd, right? The day before May the 4th. And we're getting 2 Star Wars comics, one from Marvel Comics, one from Dark Horse Comics. The one from Marvel will be about Luke Skywalker, Kylo Ren, Qui-Gon Jinn, Darth Vader, all there on the cover. And then the Dark Horse one is going to skew to younger audiences with young Jedi adventures. You can pick those up for free at any comic book store that celebrates Free Comic Book Day. Johnny C., I want to ask you, do you have a Free Comic Book Day event at your comic shop?
I can't believe there are shops that don't. I would feel like you'd have to
I think it is
call yourself a comic book store.
I think it is most, if not all, comic shops. The Acolyte got canceled on Disney Plus, but it is continuing. Well, I think this is a prequel to the Acolyte series. This novel, Star Wars: The Acolyte, Wayseeker, by Justina Ireland. Was this one of those series you stopped watching partway through, Doobie?
Yeah, I wanted to give it a fair shot, and I did. I did not like The Acolyte. I did not like it one bit.
Did not like it, Sam I Am.
Right.
But yeah, I think it does have its fans, and the story will be fleshed out via the publishing side. Justina Ireland writing Star Wars: The Acolyte, Wayseeker, starring Vernestra Rouleau and Master Indara, who was what's the actress's name from The Matrix? Yeah, I'm blanking on it.
Sorry.
You know it. You know who I'm talking about.
Never seen The Matrix.
Oh, you've never seen The Matrix?
No.
Wow. Bloom didn't like The Acolyte either. Carrie Ann Moss, it just came to me.
Okay.
So there you have it. That's another Acolyte story. High Republic, A Valiant Vow. This is the final middle grade novel for younger readers in the High Republic by Justina Ireland. That's coming out May the 6th. Then you have the final audio drama, which already came out, but they're releasing the script version of The Tempest Breaker by Cavan Scott. Really like this, and you'll be able to read along, or if you have hearing difficulties, you can read the story without having to listen to the audio drama. That's coming on May 13th. Star Wars Life Size from DK Publishing, coming June 10th. This is another kind of fun reference book telling you the relative sizes of all of these familiar items. I see Doobie's cracking up here.
I love it, but wow, it's hilarious.
You've seen those. They have those YouTube videos where they'll show you like, oh, this is how big a Star Destroyer is compared to the Empire State Building.
I love that, actually.
Kind of like that.
It's unfathomable. It's almost like they couldn't exist. They don't. but it's interesting. I applaud it, even though I laugh at it.
I think it's a good idea, and I think kids are interested in this kind of thing. And again, it could be educational to learn. I don't know why you would ever need that information in real life, how big R2D2 is, but
Johnny C's concerning me because first he doesn't like Rise of Resistance, and now he loved The Acolyte. So, a little bit worried.
Tied with Andor as his #1 Star Wars D plus show. I like The Acolyte. I didn't love it. I think it had its issues, but yeah, that's sad to see it got canceled. Then, okay, wrapping up the final adult novel of Star Wars: The High Republic, called Trials of the Jedi. This is not even the full cover yet. This is the temp cover. We don't even know what the full cover looks like. By Charles Soule, June 17th. This is the big one. This is the only synopsis they've released. The Star Wars High Republic story comes to a conclusion as the Jedi face off against the Nile and Marchion Ro, who is the leader of the Nile. Oh boy, this is going to be an exciting one. Can't wait for that. Charles Soule, again, another of my favorite authors. Getting back to The Acolyte, we'll get the visual guide by Pablo Hidalgo. See, Doobie, you don't know about this. The helmet there, that's a very special medal. I'm blanking on the name of the medal too. In Star Wars, and it can defend against lightsabers. Cortosis medal is what it's called. And this guide, written by Pablo Hidalgo from Lucasfilm Story Group, it's going to bring you through everything that you saw in The Acolyte and explain what it is. He does all these visual guides, and they're always really fascinating. Just like you said with the guide to locations, it's kind of a picture book, and it's telling you what everything does among all the tech and costumes. Yeah, go ahead.
These books are just so niche, and yet they're making them. So the Star Wars fandom universe just is so incredibly large and dedicated. It's just crazy.
Well, people use this kind of book too to help build their cosplay and
how many people can there possibly be that want to use this book to build their cosplay? Apparently more than I would have ever guessed. But wow.
So with the High Republic wrapping up, we'll also get volume 2 of The Art of Star Wars: The High Republic by Kristen Baver, also for a Lucasfilm regular who has been on this program before. And I loved volume 1 of The Art of the High Republic. Volume 2 coming out from Abrams Books on June 17th. Really nice painted cover there. The Art of Star Wars Visions Volume 2. Did you get to watch Visions at all?
I saw a little bit of it, not too much.
Yeah.
I love art of books. These make me very happy.
Yeah, so Visions is the first season was all anime. It was Japanese animation studios brought in to make their own Star Wars story that didn't have to fit into any of the Star Wars canon, so they had that freedom going for them. Then season 2, they went to all animation studios all around the world. There was an Irish one, there was a British one from Aardman Animation that I really loved, and now season 2 is getting its own art of book. So this is kind of the international version. You'll see all the design and concept artwork that went into creating Star Wars Visions Volume 2. In the world of crafts, you'll get to make Star Wars paper dolls on July 8th in this book from Insight Editions. Have you ever made a paper doll?
I have not. That? Interesting cover, this book. No, it says in the corner, final cover to be revealed. Yes. I have never made a paper doll in my life, I'm sad to say.
I don't even know if I know what a paper doll is. Do you know what a paper doll is?
I know what I'm picturing. I don't know if I'm right, but I'm picturing you just kind of cut around. You know what? Let's see if I'm right, and if I'm wrong, no one will ever know. I'm more or less wrong, so let's just move on.
Okay. The art is more art of books. The Art of Star Wars Outlaws is coming July 8th. Great, really fun video game that came out last year, and now we'll get to see all that concept art. Did you get to check out anything from this game? Do you even know what this game is?
I don't play games at all. I'm sorry.
But did you see any footage or anything? It's kind of like the Underworld. It was like an underworld simulator for Star Wars, and you're running around working for all the Hutt cartel and Crimson Dawn.
My favorite Star Wars universe, or my favorites, are Lando Calrissian's place and the place at the beginning of episode 2. Or no, I'm sorry, episode 3. So whichever one has them flying through the which one was that? That was episode 2, right?
Wait, flying through what?
They're just flying through a city, trying to get the person, tell them to stop. Dang it. Whichever. Anyway, I like my Star Wars universes antiseptic, sterile, bright,
Okay, you
modern.
don't
So
like the grimy
oh,
underworld of Star Wars. That's what this was all about.
no,
That's
I do
my
not.
favorite part. So you and I differ on that.
Yes.
I like the gross, disgusting side of Star Wars,
Oh,
and that's what Star Wars Outlaws was all about. You can learn more and see how they designed all this in the Art of Star Wars book coming from Dark Horse Books on July 8th. The Acolyte does have another. I think this is a young adult novel coming from Tessa Gratton, Star Wars: The Acolyte, Crystal Crown, and this boy, I'm going to test myself if I remember the names of these characters. It's Yord and Jeki are
wow.
the two featured characters in this book, and again, it's a prequel to The Acolyte, set before the events of The Acolyte, because you may remember that these two characters don't have a great time. They're not happy at the end of by the end of that series. So let's get on to okay. Earlier we talked about the Bad Batch getting their own comic book this year. They're also getting a novel called Star Wars: The Bad Batch Sanctuary by Lamar Giles. That's coming August 5th from Random House World. And we don't know much more about it except that it is about the Bad Batch. We don't know when it takes place. We don't know which characters specifically will be in it. But interesting that the Bad Batch are getting a novel a year or so. No, yeah, about a year after the series came to an end. Phantom Menace, a visual archive celebrating the 25th anniversary of this movie, although that was last year. So 1 year after the 20th. So it's the 26th anniversary of the Phantom Menace. There's that lightsaber you were talking about,
Cool
Doobie.
weapon. Cool weapon. Yep. All right.
Double-bladed lightsaber. Johnny said Tessa has become one of my favorite Star Wars writers. I got to interview her at San Diego Comic-Con last year, and she was really, really cool and friendly in person. The Art of Star Wars: The Acolyte, another Acolyte book coming October 7th by Kristen Baver. No, we're getting into no covers having been revealed for any of this stuff. Star Wars Icons: Darth Vader by journalist Anthony Bresnikan, pretty famous guy. October 21st from Insight Editions. That's a big like coffee table book. And then okay, lastly on the list, Star Wars Visions Volume 3. I mentioned the Art of Star Wars Visions earlier for Volume 2. Now we're getting back into Visions on Disney Plus. This is going to be another season entirely of Japanese animation. So the studios this season are going to be Kamikaze Duga, Kinema Citrus, Production IG, Trigger Anima, David Production, Polygon Pictures, Project Studio Q, and Wit Studio, making a grand total of 9 shorts for Star Wars Visions Volume 3. I'm very excited for this. I hope that there's at least one of these that continues the story of one of the shorts from the first season of Star Wars Vision. I think that would be cool if they start building out these universes, which they've done for one of them. There was one short, I think the first short called The Duel in season 1, that they made a novel that extended that story, a comic book. So I would like to see them start. It doesn't have to connect to the main Star Wars canon, but I like them building out their own universes. Is this something that you might check out, Visions Volume 3?
No, not a huge fan of animation, so probably not.
No, not an animation guy. Yeah, you've said that before.
Yeah.
You didn't watch the Bad Batch at all, or
No.
Star Wars Rebels.
Classic Disney movies, yes, but other than that,
Yes,
not really.
Star Wars animation you're not into. So as far as live action goes, like I said, Andor is the big thing this year. But 2026, we're going to get Star Wars in movie theaters for the first time in a while, since 2019. The Mandalorian and Grogu from director Jon Favreau. Doobie, you excited for that one?
Extremely. I mean, that's what I miss is Star Wars in the movie theater.
Yeah.
Even when they only turned out to be so-so, just the event, the excitement leading up to it, the event going to see it opening weekend is special. There's almost nothing like it in the movie world. And the fact that Disney can go this long without doing it just drives me crazy.
Very excited for that. And then also 2026, Star Wars Ahsoka will be back for its second season. You said you didn't finish season 1.
So I really like season 1. We sat down to watch the
Yeah.
finale, and while we were watching it, a computer issue came up at work
Oh,
that I
okay.
had to deal with while watching it. So I barely saw it. So
Yeah.
maybe I'll watch it again later so I can actually know what happened. And
Yeah.
that later never came.
Okay. Well, maybe you'll get around to it eventually. And then lastly, I think this is going to be 2026, although I don't think they've set a date. But the third game in the Star Wars Jedi trilogy, I think, might be coming out at the end of 2026, and I'm super psyched for that. But that's the next couple years that we know about in Star Wars. Right now, I think everybody's kind of looking forward to Andor and
Yeah.
Celebration. Those are the two big things coming out this spring from the Star Wars galaxy. Doobie, what do you think about the current state of Star Wars as it stands, as a casual observer, as a casual consumer of this stuff?
I love that they keep doing so much stuff on Disney Plus. It's more hits than misses. It can't be perfect, and obviously it's
Right.
all subjective anyway. But more hits than misses. I cannot comprehend the lack of theatrical films. It drives me crazy. So because of that, I will not give them a high grade. But their consistency with keeping going with the Disney Plus and having so many of them be good. I mean, I'm a guy. I like Boba Fett. I liked Obi-Wan. I like all of that stuff. The only one I really did not like was The Acolyte and Skeleton Crew. It's not that I hated it; it just wasn't for me.
It's two Goonies for
more
you.
like a kids movie. So yeah, I love what they're doing with Disney Plus. That's some truly great stuff. I still think about that Mandalorian episode. Was it in the prison or on that one?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. I can't.
Right.
But you know what I'm talking about.
The one where the Mandalorian's basically Batman, and he goes around like wiping up all those guys who escaped from the jail.
Other than Hamilton, that may be the best thing I've seen on Disney Plus. Is that one episode? So
I like that one a lot too. That's definitely one of my favorites. Okay, yeah, that's everything coming up. Hope that you will stick with us at Laughing Place and here on the Who's the Bossk podcast as we cover all that stuff in the coming year and change. Let's get into our final segment here on Who's the Bossk. It's called First Steps into a Larger World. This is where we talk about the media that we've been consuming and or enjoying outside of Star Wars. My example this week, I finally watched Wallace and Gromit: Vengeance Most Foul, and this morning we found out it was nominated for an Oscar for Best Animated Feature. I love Wallace and Gromit. Been watching them for decades. There's not a ton of Wallace and Gromit content. I think there's like a handful of shorts, one previous theatrical movie that I thought was really good as well, and then this recent one, Vengeance Most Foul. It's a Netflix exclusive movie here in the United States, and it's a direct sequel to one of the shorts, which is called The Wrong Trousers. I think that's probably the most famous of the Wallace and Gromit shorts. But yeah, really highly recommend this. It brings back the character of Feathers McGraw, I think is the name of the penguin who disguises himself as a chicken. Really funny, really fun. The stop motion animation is just gorgeous. I can't recommend it enough. Love it. What about you, Doobie? What have you been watching or reading or whatever lately?
And it got nominated, and Moana 2 didn't. So how about that? All right. So this was an evolution for me because my first thought was Carry On from Christmas season, but I've watched that movie like 5 times. Netflix movie, dumb. Die Hard in an Airport. I loved it. That's it.
Wait, Die Hard in an Airport is already Die Hard 2.
That's what makes it so funny. And it's nowhere near as good as Die Hard 2, by the way, but it is a fun watch. And then I thought, of course, Getting Lost, which is the documentary you brought up earlier about not just about the movie, not just about the show, but also just about the era and the fandom and what it was like to go through it. Did you watch Lost first run?
Yes. So I missed the first season when it was airing, and then when the DVD set came out over that summer, I knew I was going to love it. I just knew it from everything I heard about it. So I just bought the DVD set sight unseen and consumed it in like a day and a half. That full first season. It's like 24 episodes.
Which is just so weird because part of, and that's, I mean, I'm not criticizing, but people who now are getting into Lost and watching it, as much as they love it, they can't comprehend what it was like to watch it first run, where every week you got that little tease at the end. Oh, next week, now we're going to learn something. And then the next week comes and you don't learn anything, but you still love the experience. And then the tease at the end. You just can't. And so this documentary does a great job of capturing what it was like to live Lost as a fan back in the day, as well as getting into the show. A lot of time spent on Hawaii, a lot of time spent on the development of it and how they thought they were just going to have a pilot and it would never get picked up. So let's just go all out for it. And a lot of time spent on their mindset with the mythology and, did they know what it was going to be the whole time? They more or less say no, but by the third season we did. So just fantastic. I've heard people criticizing it as some Lost fans, like on Reddit, because it doesn't explain everything. And I'm like, that's not the point of this. The point of this is to let people who lived it or people who didn't see what the whole Lost thing was at the time. There was nothing like it. It was my favorite show of all time, and there really is no close second. Yeah. And so that's Getting Lost. It's streaming. You can rent it on streaming services everywhere. I don't think it's for sale yet, so Mike will refuse to see it until it's in the physical media. But and then while we were doing this show, so when I read this question last night, and I'm like, there's a movie I saw recently. What the heck was that movie that I never heard of it, and it was so good. I should mention that, and I couldn't think of it. And then as we're doing the show today, Daisy Ridley popped up, and I realized she was in that movie, and then I was able to go look it up. And it's a movie called Magpie. It came out this year. I rented it just based on the synopsis. I check out a lot of movies. I rarely finish them, but this one I rented because it just had such a great synopsis. And oh my goodness, I love this movie. It's about a husband and a wife and their daughter gets cast in a movie with the famous actress, and the husband's kind of the onset person with the daughter. And then he starts he gets really infatuated with the actress, and they start having a relationship, but it's a huge twist in the movie that I probably shouldn't even said that much, but it is so good. I love Magpie. It is exactly my kind of movie, and I now need to own it so I can just watch it every couple of months. So and Magpie, you heard it from me.
Is that streaming anywhere, Magpie?
Yeah, you can rent it on any streaming service or buy it. I don't even know if it was theatrical. It just came out this year. I suspect it has some theatrical, but yeah, you can. I saw it on Amazon for like $4 or whatever.
It seems like Daisy Ridley had a good year last year because she was in Young Woman and the Sea, and she had that movie, which I had heard the title, but I haven't seen the trailer or anything, so I have to check that out.
On my recommendation, go check out Magpie.
Okay, and then just going back to Lost, the Lost documentary, Finding Lost, is that what it's called?
Getting Lost.
I wanted to mention, once I had consumed that first season on DVD that summer, I was 100% into it, and I followed along week by week, like you were saying. To the point where I was like, I made a list of every unanswered mystery so far in like a notebook, and I would cross them out as they were answered and add new ones as they were added.
That does not surprise me. You asked me earlier if J.J. Abrams did it. Yes, J.J. Abrams, Carlton Cuse, Damon Lindelof, a lot. Everyone behind the scenes is in it, and most of the people in front of the camera in it, with the very notable exception of Matthew Shepard, who chose not to participate.
Matthew Fox,
I'm sorry, goodness.
Played Jack Shepard.
Yes, I do that all the time. He chose not to participate, but Kate, Sawyer, Jen, not Sun, and not Charlie did not participate, but so many participated. So many, both major characters and minor characters. Even our favorite
Uncle Dan,
Daniel Roebuck, has a very special part in it. Make sure you watch all the way through.
This is definitely on my list. In fact, I'm going to add it to my Letterboxd watch list right now, because that's a new thing to remind myself of what movies I want to see. Okay, that's going to bring us to the end of this week's episode of Who's the Bossk. Big thank you to Doobie for taking time out of I know he's had a very busy and frustrating week, so thank you, Doobie. I really, really honestly appreciate you doing this with me and coming back to talk with me about Star Wars.
Yeah, it's been great. I love doing this because I like talking to you. You're a cool guy, Mike, and you're fun. So even though I know squat about Star Wars, if you want to have me, I'm happy to come on.
No, honestly, when I thought about who would be good to talk about what's coming up, I thought, let's get the casual Star Wars consumer, get their thoughts their take on the state of things and what's coming up. So I appreciate that you were able to do that for me, Doobie. On the next episode of Who's the Boss, I actually don't know what's next, so that's a big question mark right now. I'm hoping to do another episode next week, but I'll try to line up a guest and find a topic to talk about. Anyway, I'll keep you posted about that. In the meantime, please visit laughingplace.com for all your Disney news and opinions. I'm on Instagram at Who's the Bossk Pod. That's it. Thanks to Doobie once again. We'll see you next time. May the force be with you. See you real soon. Bye.